Hello and welcome back. I'm sure you all have missed Murat. It's been 2 weeks.
I'm sure wearing more.
No, I was here on Thursday, so this is about you. I am wearing my Customs and Border Patrol prison jumpsuit after being let out. If you guys didn't hear that story, we talked about it thoroughly on Thursday. My wonderful detainment and how the United States treats their free speech warriors. They're journalists, but. So obviously go back and that was a guest episode a special episode with Chris Halali, and he went over his visit to Iraq as well in Karbala and Najaf. So be sure to check that out. We won't be going into detail about that today. We'll be talking about Murat's viral post and the occurrences surrounding it that made it possible, which were the Russia-American peace talks. Murat, how are you? Did you miss streaming?
Yeah, I did. Of course, you had your trip, and the way it coincided, that gave myself a long break. I spent that break doing a lot of spaces on Armenia, Azerbaijan, of course. So tried to keep busy in terms of geopol, and there was a lot to talk about. I mean, it just so happened that during our break that everything happened, basically.
We were trying to keep up while we were out there with I had my travel pass on, so it's 3G, and I was like, there's so much there was so many geopolitical moves, not tangible actions. There was a lot of diplomacy. So we will get into the corridor again and some updates on that. I think the agreement occurred while I was in Iraq, because I remember looking at them and saying, oh my God, this is so bad. Yeah. So this will be the first time you guys get to hear about Murat or from Murat about that. Let me see if I can get my screen share to work, which I literally never can. But let's start off with the talks. And here is, let's see if it will come up. This is Murat's viral post. Make sure that you go check it out.
Sarah, I don't think is it visible? It's not visible on my.
Oh, here we go. Oh no, it's visible.
Okay. It's working now.
Look at my. So if you guys can't tell because you don't speak Russian, this is that's the Russian journalist in a Party City parking lot. So
a defunct Party City parking lot. So there was a lot of Party City discourse in my replies as a result of this post. But yeah, Party City is no longer operational. But yeah, I guess that was the nearest large parking lot.
So that was a big topic of conversation, was the treatment of Russian journalists. That was kind of like what we discussed even before the talks began. I theorized that it was either done purposely, which I'm less inclined to believe than I am to believe that they were just woefully underprepared, as the American government, especially the military, often is. Did you have any thoughts about the treatment or I don't want to say treatment, because I don't think that it was malicious or even done with intent. The conditions that the foreign journalists were kind of subjected to.
Yeah, actually, I was not inclined to think that any of this was malicious either. In terms of the food that we saw, we know Trump loves serving cheeseburgers for his guests, even at the White House. He'll do that for Americans. In terms of the locations and stuff, I agree. I think it was just woefully underprepared. It's also an area that probably is not used to having so many journalists at one time, such a big event. So I think there was just a scramble, and they just did the best they could. I do honestly think that they tried to kind of roll out the red carpet as best as they can.
Well, they literally did.
It was meant to disrespect them.
I don't think so either, but I do think that it was, and maybe I'm looking too much into it, I do think that the Russian press and the foreign press used it as a way to be like, look at these people. Look at how ridiculous this is. We're staying in an Airbnb in a basement, and they're feeding us cheeseburgers wrapped in foil that are cold. I mean, they gave them tuna salad that had been left out overnight for breakfast, which Russians love a good tuna salad. They love a good potato, tuna.
I love tuna salad, yeah.
Macaroni salad, but I don't know about left out overnight.
The thing is that, like, I to their credit, they did not spend much time on Russian state media, at least from what I had seen or what my parents had seen, like, talking about that. So there wasn't too much groveling over the food servings or um, the um, the location. And like they I don't think they know what Party City is, so I don't even.
Maybe they thought it was like an actual party. They were like, "Ooh, what's this place?
Yeah.
This is the Hard Base
Yeah.
Club," and it
Yeah.
wound up
The discoteca, yeah.
but yes, so we get the arrival of Putin. We have a bunch of videos if you guys want to discuss them, but we have him arriving with Trump's crooked walk. We have the B2 flyover, which some speculated was a B2 that actually participated in the bombing of Iran, which I don't know that matters. And then a very intelligent a geopolitical analyst who will remain nameless for this episode said that this wasn't a show of force for Russia. This was a show of force for China. So, do you have any thoughts on that? While China has near peer or surpassing capabilities to a B2, what is this about?
I'm not sure of that point. No, I wasn't prepared for that one. The B2. Here's the thing. So I was on a space, like a very pro-Ukraine space, and they were like, the B2 flew over, and that was a message to the Russians of don't F with us. And I was like, I feel like actually the B2 was quite sort of meant to protect everyone. It was sort of just meant as a show of respect. It was part of the rolling out of the red carpet. I don't think any of it was meant to be threatening to the Russian. I mean, that's just not how we do things like on a head of state visit. So no, I thought the B2 was just kind of a America, but in a respectful way, kind of show. I didn't even make the connection to China.
What did you think about? So this, I'll put up the video 1 second. What did you think about the two of them kind of hopping in the car together, and they left in a car? They both had their cars there, obviously, but they left together. Of course, Twitter doesn't really work, but they left together and they were talking in English, which is something that Putin doesn't always do. He doesn't always converse in English. He doesn't always acknowledge English speakers. What did you think about that?
I think this is one of Putin's great strengths, and I think this both is also a strength of Trump's, but this plays well to kind of the interpersonality, which if you want to glaze Trump, or if you want to have the meeting, set the tone well with Trump, I think that Putin loves doing this stuff. You'll see the photos of him and Kim in the car. Remember that with Kim Jong-un?
Oh yeah, we've made so many memes of that.
Him with Aliyev in the car. Putin loves the sort of interpersonal. Let's go race a car together. Let's go chill in the car together. So it's like I think this is very much Putin's style. And this is his comfort zone in terms of if he was coming to a big meeting. I think he wanted it to have that kind of vibe, and I think Trump very much appreciates that type of stuff. I don't think Trump had an issue having Putin in the same car. So this was quite, I'd say, predictable and kind of gave a positive sort of feel for how the meeting started.
I do have this other video, which I thought was important. I want to get your thoughts on this as well, which everybody kind of thought was like a gotcha. This is reporters screaming.
Come on, guys. Come on, guys. Let's go. Let's go. Thank you, press. Let's go. Thank you, press. Thank you, press. Thank you.
I can't make out what Putin. So I saw that clip, but what was he yelling back? Do you know?
We just made a meme and said he was yelling. Ask him about the Epstein files. We have no idea what he was yelling. What was funny is that the Americans were like, "Oh, he's not ready for journalists with free speech," and the Russians were like, "No, we just don't know how to react when 30 people are screaming at us."
So Putin used to do. Actually, he might still do this, but he would do a end of year press conference. Russian New Year's, of course, is a big deal. And the press conference goes for a really long time, and it's just him fielding questions. And I imagine he's probably prepared for some of them, or he gets them beforehand. Maybe some of them are impromptu, but anyway, it's all very kind of ordered and one by one. and he gets to, give a thorough answer, rather than like kind of vaguely gish gallop or whatever. So anyway, I think that's the press conference environment he's used to. He has his expressions are very Russian. I would say, like, even the way he's kind of confused, like in his face, he's just kind of like, yeah, it is extremely Russian the way he did that.
He looked so like Mongolian horde, like his face.
Yeah, he's like it's like an alien who just dropped into a new planet or something, and he doesn't know where he's at. But anyway, with American press, I mean, we do things a little differently here, and yes, like we kind of take pride in our press culture. That was crazy though, because I don't know who could hear a question in that, like in that sort of where everyone's just screaming at you. Perhaps that was kind of the idea, but I mean, I don't know what they figured that would have accomplished. But yeah, that's insane, and that looked like a jungle.
So what we do know about the meeting, we don't know a ton about what was discussed inside, but we do know that the schedule was set to be about 6 or 7 hours. The format was going to be a one-on-one between Putin and Trump for about 2-3 hours, and then a luncheon or dinner, which we even had the menu for, so we knew that it was going to occur with a seating chart. Then after that, they would go to the 3-on-3 format, and then they would have their press conference, and then they would go. In the midst of all of this was changed from a one-on-one between Trump and Putin. That was axed. It was changed to the 3-on-3 format first. The luncheon or dinner was completely canceled. They had no press conference afterwards. And the Americans went home immediately following that very short press conference. The Americans did it. We are very clear on that. The Russians have confirmed, and so has the White House. What are your thoughts about why they would that? Is that a power play, or do you think they got spooked in there?
Well, I don't even know how it would read like a power play, because they called the meeting, they invited them, they came. I think the Russians did the power play where they already happy with the meeting and having arrived there. They felt like they could just pull it at any moment. And so sure enough, once the talks got to a point where they could rug it, they kind of just stood firm. And I'm guessing this was in regards to Zaporozhye and Kherson. I was talking to my dad this morning about it. He's just like, they want Kherson? So it's like the thing is that they are clearly so like miles apart on negotiating that part of it. You got the minerals, you've got the gains that Russia has made as of late. I think for America, if I could just go on a quick tangent here, what this does for America in regards to dealing with Zelensky is it allows them to say, okay, look, we had the meeting, Russia came, we talked to them, Russia does want peace, and now Zelensky looks like the unreasonable one, right, for his asks. So now I don't know how hard America is arguing on behalf of Zelensky, but I think this is a way for America to go back to Zelensky to say, look, we're doing everything we can for you. We hosted Putin in Alaska. What do you want? We sat down and talked. This is their demands. We think you're asking for a little too much. That's what I think is going on here. I was looking at Reddit, like a r/geopolitics, which is a very pro-Ukraine as it pertains to this conflict area or site. They all thought unanimously thought this was an L for Trump in terms of even taking the meeting. Mm-hmm. So the pro-Ukraine crowd was not happy about, the meeting taking place, how the meeting ended, any part of it. Right. And so what we can take from that is that, the whole purpose of this meeting was to kind of rug Ukraine a little bit.
I agree. And I think it actually rugged the United States as well, just because Russia kind of went in with all of the leverage and was like, we don't even care how these talks turn out. We're already in the driver's seat. What do you guys want? We'll have some halibut. But I do have a video for you. You'll find this entertaining.
Air Force One, larger than the Russian plane. By the way, I was just looking it up, satisfying my own curiosity. POCCNR, Russian for Russia. And then
Russian for Russia.
Posia, yeah.
POCCNR.
That's amazing. I mean, did they just come into this with no prep?
That's
gotta
Fox
be.
News too. Like I actually kind of like when your presidents, when your side is in office, you have the onus to be more prepped, to be like knowledgeable and supportive. And Fox News just absolutely failed. But Fox News also flipped out as well afterwards with all of the others, which I thought was curious. But first, just so everybody refreshes everybody's memory, this was also an event at Lavrov's arrival.
Сергей Викторович, а вы первый раз на Аляске? Для известия скажите, пожалуйста. Первый?
Бывал, я тут уже.
Вам нравится?
Press and Ukrainians went insane. So did the Europeans. If you don't know, CCP is Russian for USSR. So people went absolutely insane. I thought that it was a very good message.
I thought so. There were questions. Even my dad was kind of like, "Are we?"
All right, really quick aside. We're trying to get. Can you guys help? We're trying to get Murat's dad to come at least online into a space or onto a stream. Murat's dad, I think Murat's based, but what produced Murat is actually based by tenfold.
No, my dad's like a better fit for DDG. Yeah.
He's much more like me. But yes, go ahead.
So, but yeah, even my dad was like, because he's trying to read on the shirt. He's like, is it maybe the Russia, like the two C's in the middle? Because he was like, the color scheme it's not the right one for the CCCP ones. So there were questions about that. Now, the Russian media at this point is confirmed it was a CCP shirt. He came. Also, my dad and I were laughing about like Lasky's wearing a vest. Like he came in such street, like so casually, such street clothes. But yeah, I mean this was the whole thing from start to finish was covered like the Super Bowl in Russia. And that was kind of what the point of my viral clip was, because they're on the ground, the same way that the journalists are at the Super Bowl stadium, and they're just kind of in awe or whatever. But it was just funny because it's just Party City, right? But anyway, yeah, like the way everyone is walking into the hotel, this and that. I mean, it was just every detail was covered. Every detail was sort of thought out. Putin went to the monument, the World War II commemoration monument, laid roses there prior to the trip. I'm sure you saw that. There was, I don't know if you heard about this. I heard this on a space. They were served chicken Kiev on the way there.
No.
The Russian delegation.
Chicken Kiev is good. I mean, it's just buttery chicken.
I mean, it's popular, but it's that
little
probably maybe not a
Did you know that Putin pointed to Lavrov and said to Rubio, he was like imperialist when he was wearing the USSR sweater. By the way, the USSR sweater is by a great Russian designer named Selsovet. It has sold out, but they have other stuff too. You should go online and buy her designs. They're really awesome throwbacks to the USSR, but without being tanky and cringe. Like they're very simple.
They're not red and white. Yeah.
No, I mean they have a red one, but no, they're not red and white. No. I was like, okay, so then the meeting occurs. We have their little afterthoughts, which was really just a bunch of words, and then here, I don't think it'll play. Oh wait, maybe it will. But Putin invites Trump to Moscow. And Trump says, "Ooh, that's an interesting one. I'll get a little heat for that one."
I could see it possibly happening. Thank you, President. I'd like to thank you very much. And we'll speak to you very soon and probably see you again very soon. Thank you very much, Vladimir.
Next time in Moscow.
Oh, that's an interesting one. No. I'll get a little heat on that one, but I could see it possibly happening.
He would never go to Moscow.
I think he personally wants to, but like literally everyone in the administration would just be like, "You can't do this."
No, you can't do this. And also, I want to make note of the fact this is our viral post, which I think Murat beat us anyway. But let me get our viral post up. I think that Putin did a very, very good job using this as a photo op.
Yeah.
I mean, this was very important. I mean, I don't think that Russians knew how important something like this would be to Americans. If you saw people retweeted this and made it very much about like Russia coming and upholding Christian values, and we don't even do that. So I don't think Russia meant for that to be a secondary effect, but I don't know if you saw David's post. David got 200,000 likes sharing this and just writing, President Putin does a sign of the cross. What other presidents do you know that do that? And it went 200,000, like 200,000 likes, not engagement, likes. And we got 50,000. This was a huge dub for Putin in the current political and sociological climate in the United States.
So I mean, as I just mentioned with the him visiting the World War II commemoration monument in Russia, that was commemorating the collaboration with Americans, and then doing this while he arrived in I think every step was thought out. I think they knew that the photo op was. I mean, I do think that he sincerely cares and stuff, but I think they know that the photo ops would play well. I always give Putin high marks in like moves like this because generally the heads of state, you don't see them do this. Yeah, I mean it was a great image. David's, I'm sure you mean David Z, right? He got
no, I mean our David Riley, our David.
Oh, David Riley got. Wow, nice job, David.
Yeah, our Catholic crusader, David. Of course, it was David Riley. He was like, "What other president does the sign of the cross?"
Yeah, well, it's a win for the Ortho Bros, David. A win for the Ortho Bros.
A win for the Christians. We get none, but we're working on it. And then, of course, Fox. This is what I found the most interesting was the Fox News reaction.
It was just very unusual, atypical, and I think we're all awaiting, the readout, because the way that it felt in the room was not good. It did not seem like things went well, and it seemed like Putin came in and steamrolled, got right into what he wanted to say, and it was just very unusual, atypical. And
what do you make of that? Why do you think that Fox News thinks that Trump got steamrolled were their words? And that's Fox News. Someone said, oh, she's engaged or getting married to some Democrat. I don't know if that matters. I guess we'll take it into consideration, but I'm using Fox News because I refuse to use Sky News and CNN.
Yeah, so this is where we get to see the divergence between MAGA that defends Trump no matter what, and the kind of neocon deep interests, right, or deep state interests, where they don't like something that he does and they will say it. And I mean, let's be honest, with Trump, we're in the Biden zone. I don't think he knows where he is half the time at this point. He's not the sharpest tool in the shed. And I think Putin came in much more prepared for this. And so what they're referring to when they say that he came in and got steamrolled, I think Putin had a playbook and Trump was just happy to have the meeting. Like that's what I think happened. So I think when Russia came in with their with their asks or their demands, once they probably knew that the meeting was going to come to an end once they were going to stonewall, and I think Trump was less prepared for dealing with that part of it. So I think that's all that happened, and I think that whoever was inside and talking to Fox News, I think there were people in the room very unhappy with how the meeting went on the American side, and that's who went and reported it.
I think you're right. And I do think they're really unhappy with it. Immediately following, Trump went right to an interview with Brett Baer, who is usually his typical interviewer, especially after stuff like this, because he handles him with softballs. But he pivots immediately. He just says one thing that stuck out at the meeting about the meeting was that we didn't agree on one major issue, but he will not say what it is. Which I don't know. What do you think it is? Maybe it's the territories or the minerals?
What other issues are there? I mean, because what else is there to discuss between Russia and the U.S.? I mean, they came there to discuss that war. That's where they're far apart on. Russia has the leverage and stuff. I don't even know what other issues would have come up.
I actually really love this clip. This is one of my favorites.
There are a lot of people dying. And if we can end that war, it would be very good. And I was very happy to hear him say, if I was president, that war would have never happened. Mr. President, that was my next question. He said at the joint press conference that, and you have said this many, many times, and he confirmed for the world today, that if you were president, this wouldn't have happened. Did any of the specifics come up as to why he said that?
It did. It doesn't matter at this point, but that this war should never have happened. You know, a lot of wars should never have happened. It was, but
So what are the odds? I'm talking like statistic odds that Putin actually said to Trump, if you were president, this wouldn't have started.
Well, I think it's 100% odds because it's a great way to flatter Trump. But here's what Trump doesn't get is that like the actual likelihood or truth of that is zero, because Trump thinks it's his world and we're living in it, or the world revolves around him. He doesn't understand that like this. I've never been a big believer in this, like whether if it was in Biden or if it was Trump, that something would have gone different.
No, I don't think so either. I think that
happen.
course, that course was set.
It was way set. It was set during Obama.
It was set in 1950, really. I mean, if you think about it,
before.
I mean, this was definitely the set course as soon as 1991 hit, and then Obama and Biden just put it on meth. But yeah,
I think that, but the fact that Trump even brings this up as if it matters now, I feel like I don't like this just shows up. But again, Putin understands this, and that's why he flatters him with him. He said, "I was very glad to hear that if I was president, this wouldn't have happened." Okay, well, you weren't, and the war is happening now. So does it even matter? But it matters for Trump, right? Because that flattery. So it mattered enough for him to even bring it up, and it matters for Hannity to flatter Trump to reiterate the point. So this is where we're at, and just these like full like cult of personality politics, where we're just complimenting Trump on what ifs as opposed to things he's done. And so it's like, okay, well, now you are president and the war is still going. So what are you talking about?
right.
Yeah.
It's like if we could just go back. Putin said, I mean, like, this really isn't my problem. This isn't my fault. If we could just go back. Putin even said, I'm not responsible for this. If I was president, it would have never happened. And here I am. I'm trying to fix it. I'm just a nice guy. I just want a peace prize. I didn't do anything wrong here. Even Putin said it. It's like such an absolution of guilt, like a self-absolution of guilt. Afterwards, I do want to play this full video. Also, breaking news, good news. Russia just hit more Azerbaijani oil depots in Ukraine. Rub your hands. But here we go. It's a minute and a half. This is Putin addressing the Russians. No, we'll just use this one.
Для того, чтобы проинформировать о результатах нашего визита нашей делегации в Соединенные Штаты, на Аляску. Хочу сразу отметить, что визит был своевременным и весьма полезным. Мы поговорили практически по всем направлениям нашего взаимодействия, но прежде всего, конечно, говорили о возможном разрешении украинского кризиса на справедливой основе. И, конечно, у нас была возможность, что мы сделали, поговорить о генезисе, о причинах этого кризиса. И именно устранение этих первопричин должно быть положено в основу урегулирования. Мы давно напрямую не вели переговоров подобного рода на таком уровне. Повторяю еще раз, была возможность спокойно, детально еще раз изложить нашу позицию. Мы, разумеется, с уважением относимся и к позиции американской администрации, которая видит необходимость скорейшего прекращения боевых действий. Ну и мы тоже этого бы хотели. И хотели бы перейти к решению всех вопросов мирными средствами. Разговор был очень откровенным, содержательным. И, на мой взгляд, это приближает нас к нужным решениям. Расскажу сейчас детально по всему ходу беседы. Если будут вопросы, с удовольствием на них отвечу.
What do you think about that address? He reiterated that the sources of the conflict need to be resolved.
I mean, I think that this once again goes to the fact that, like, I really don't know how, like, when they sat down, who was talking or who was around the table, or if it was just them two. But clearly, Trump does not understand the sources of the conflict or doesn't care. And so, when Russia, tries to make its case based on the history or based on, the genesis, as you alluded to, I don't think the Americans really know or care, one way or the other. The Americans are here to kind of try to put a stop to this. by maximizing for Ukraine's end, whatever they can salvage. And I think Russia has the leverage to where that will look really, really bad. So I think right now from the outside, Trump's main agenda right now is to try to end this war, but without looking like a complete capitulation.
I agree. And I think that if we look at it holistically, given the messaging of Lavrov, given the messaging in Alaska, given the photo ops that Putin took advantage of at both World War II memorials, and I want to re-point out Lavrov's USSR sweater, which I think he purposefully wore in Russian. So, a little bit of, what's that? And then they figure it out. Then he starts talking about the sources of this conflict, which is whether you believe it to be Russian kanging or whether they're telling the truth, denazification is one of the goals of this. Russians don't view, and I thought about this today when I was posting on Twitter. Russians don't view Nazis the same way that Americans do. They're like, Nazis, what are you talking about? They're fine with Jews. What do you mean? And Russians are like, Nazis aren't people that want to kill Jews. They're people that want to kill Slavs. Like, they want to kill Russians. Like, what are you? There's like a total disconnect there. So for Russians, this is an existential threat. At least to what they say. And the Americans are like, we got rid of Nazis. We put them all in NASA and NATO. They're not even your problem anymore.
Yeah. I think I suppose that's a good point. I mean, that part is probably in one ear and out the other. I mean, I don't think they really even have a read on that. I think they're there for the bottom line. And I think because remember Putin's interview with Tucker Carlson, and he went on the long historical. I think that's like part of that, maybe in a smaller sense, was what happened. And so then once they were lulled to sleep, they got to the terms of the negotiation, and it was just like, wait, what? We can't get these territories back, and it was done just like that. But I think that like the trying to begin the conversation with the history, with the discussions of Nazism and stuff like that, and the kind of the history of the territories and the Russian populations there and whatnot. I think that because how many territories are they at now in terms of that Russia could realistically take? Odessa, Zaporozhye, Kherson.
I don't think that Odessa is not a definite, but we have Lugansk, Donetsk, Zaporozhye, Kherson, possibly Nikolaev.
Okay, yeah, so it's like it's a lot more than just the Donbass now, and so I think that's what's being discussed. And the mineral deal, of course, is what's in the U.S. interest. The U.S. wouldn't care one way or the other in regards to whether it's a third territory or just two. I think the U.S. interests in this are the mineral mining and stuff like that.
Do you have? Well, we do know that a coalition of the shilling has formed with Merz, Macron, Queen Maloney. I refuse to talk badly about Maloney. Area doesn't like it, but oh well. Queen Maloney, von der Leyen, Stubb, who Area calls gay android, and Mark Rutte, as well as Starmer, will all go to Washington to visit Trump when he talks to Zelensky. Isn't this interesting that like the whole daycare crew has to go?
Yeah, wow, that's like the Avengers of of like mid geopolitics. Yeah,
the coalition of the shilling. Yeah, I mean, people really need to understand. This is. I'll close with this. With my final thoughts on this, and as I research this article that I'm doing, and stay tuned, guys. I'm researching a really insane article that a lot of it I didn't even know about the connections between Ukraine and Israel. Even currently, they've just made deals to share intelligence and missile technology and findings between the two of them. What I think that the United States is trying to do is to privatize this war entirely, which it's well on the way to doing. They have secured contracts for Palantir and Anduril and other weapons manufacturers that will go through the EU. The EU will be forced to purchase these things, tech and weapons, and they will be required to push them on to Ukraine. This takes the United States public sector out of it. It backs them out of it, and it still enriches us. It still enriches our stock market and our bottom line. And I think that if that could be done, the United States would say, set it and forget it. We don't care. Just do whatever you want. You want to take Palantir into Ukraine? You want to take Lockheed Martin into Ukraine? Take it. We want all of it. I also heard a theory. Now, this is not my theory. Put on a little bit of a tinfoil hat, and this is what kind of inspired me to research for this article, I'm still not sold on the theory yet, but somebody posted that there was rumors that if the United States could get this war to end kinetically in Russia, Ukraine, then it could utilize those foreign fighters and Ukrainians to hold and protect Israeli land grabs. That's interesting. And that's why I started looking into this connection a little bit more. We'll talk about it more later when I finish the article, but I kind of thought that those were some food for thought. I think people have kind of held Putin's feet to the fire about his relationships with Zionists, and they haven't really looked into this connection between Ukraine and Israel. There's even a historical connection that people don't know about. The Ukrainians and I'm probably going to get banned for this. The Ukrainians and the Zionists after World War II worked together to kind of entangle themselves with each other with the Holodomor and the whole Holocaust to make them both victims of this sort of Nazi aggression and create a more solidified alliance. I think that this is something important that we need to start looking at. And we do know, especially since right after the meeting, there's a pivot to China that needs to happen. Obviously, they will not leave Israel. They need to put stuff that they don't care about to protect Israel. But immediately following that meeting with Brett Baer, Trump pivoted and started talking trash about Xi and China, which is just more kind of subliminal, whether he meant to or not, or was a subconscious leaking out. They have no interest in this anymore. They are, Rubio especially, and Trump as well, is ready to pivot to Southeast Asia, period. And so I think that there's a lot more kind of machinations happening and the interesting thing is that we also have, and I don't want to get too down the rabbit hole because we're going to jump into Armenia, but we also have the EU who's sort of pushing back against this Israeli thing. We're going to stop arms. We're talking about 2 states. We're going to start being a little bit of a headache if you don't keep this party going in Ukraine. There's a little bit of push and pull there, I think, anyway.
I mean, we harp on this a lot. I mean, to me, it's always been apparent that there much of the like rah Zionist crowd in the U.S. United States Jews, the super invested, like kind of like the Rabbi Shmuley. We'll call it the Rabbi Shmuley crowd. Okay. Rabbi Shmuley is not pro-Russia or whatever. He's always that crowd is very much pro-Ukraine, kind of pro-West and pro-NATO. Mm-hmm. So I've always seen this Israel and Ukraine axis. That's been the natural axis. You posted something today, that just further confirms Israeli weapons sales to Ukraine. So yeah, I mean the people who push the Zionist Russia axis, that narrative always falls apart because they always tie to well, as it pertains to this conflict, they have aligning interests. Well, they actually really don't. There's the aligning interests with Ukraine have always outweighed it.
Yeah, if you really want to get into the radicals, and I can't, and I will in the article just to touch on them. I don't necessarily believe this, but there's even a whole faction of people who were like, let's link up New Khazaria with Greater Israel. We can do this. We can totally link these two up. Western Ukraine is a very big spot for a very large Jewish pilgrimage that is still used to this day. Over 400,000 Jews used to descend upon that city. I think now it's less under 100,000 due to both of the wars. But Western Ukraine is a very important area to Jews and to those, especially those Ukrainian Jews that reside in Israel. So I think there's a lot more there than people really think, and their lack of understanding of Russia, especially as the inheritor of the USSR, actually twists this sort of idea. And they're like, no, it's Jews and Russians. They both fought Nazis, blah, 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 blah. And it's really much more complicated and nuanced than that.
But they share, Putin meeting with the 2 rabbis, and it's like, okay, remember in the space the other day, I was like, do you know how many Jews still live in Russia today? And the guesses were it's like there's 40,000 Jews.
40,000.
They have practically no. And by the way, my Jewish friends or my pro-Israel friends, a lot of them will confirm this too. There's not a heavy Jewish presence or influence in Russia.
I wish there was.
That talking point is pushed by people that are neither Russian, neither Jewish. They're actually people who hate both entities, and that's why they push that talking point. That's very important to remember.
It is very important to remember, and it also, well, it doesn't work. Anyway, you'll see it in the article. Anyway, let's let Murat. Let me find the video. Yeah, we're gonna let Murat cook a little bit. Our Mr. Bean. But here we go.
Yesterday's agreement and declaration contains quite tangible benefits for Iran and for Russia as well. Because in case and when this agreement will be implemented, for example, Iran would have access through railway from Persian Gulf to the Black Sea, and Russia and Iran will have opportunity to have a railway connection between two countries. I mean that yes, if we will be concentrated on economic side of this agreement, not only Armenia, Azerbaijan, United States, but Turkey, but Russia and Iran will have very important, very tangible benefits, and actually unprecedented, because from South Caucasus we have no railway connecting Iran with Russia. So I think it is very important agreement that could bring quite a lot the benefits for all countries, and by the way, for the whole international community, for the international stability and security as well.
All yours, Murat.
So it's funny to hear him talk like this now, because for all this time, for about 3 years now, he had been neither confirming nor denying that he's going to do this, right? This what annoyed me about Trump, kind of patting himself on the back and doing this whole look what I did thing, is because Trump didn't do this. Trump didn't change anything. Trump just kind of set the meeting. This was already been in the works. Now he certainly did take the meeting that Biden didn't get done, well, whatever. But he had very little influence on something that was actually already in process. Now, but Pashinyan all this time has been walking back that this is going to happen. He's been practically, you couldn't even say in Armenia that he's doing this. So they were quite hostile to the idea that they're going to relent on this agreement. And then up until the very last day, they were still denying reports that this is what the agreement's going to come to. Now, I found it very interesting that he was on Fox News of all channels, or that's who invited him. I mean, I don't know if he just didn't want to go on all the channels, or if this was the only channel that invited him. Probably the most neocon channel, that there is. Invites him on, and what does he talk about? It's economic benefits all the way through. I mean, I don't. Did he even get into the bilateral relations? Did he even get into border demarcation? It's just economic prosperity, and they kind of hold this carrot, for Iran, like about the economic benefits with the Black Sea and the connection, stuff like that. I've always kind of found it comical that little old Armenia was like the one little chip that was blocking apparently all these lines.
It is. It's really a thorn in everyone's side in a way. Yeah, this little Christian enclave. Yeah.
Yeah, and so it's kind of just wild to imagine that this is what it took. Now, as it pertains to the treaty itself, or the meeting, the meeting was rather annoying. We saw the photo ops and stuff, and then they come. He's showing him his stupid red hats and blah blah. Like the Aliyev clearly won the flattery contest, and he must have come better prepared. I don't know. But as you can see, Pashinyan's a bit of a dud, and he just sucks, like in every way. So whether it be flattering Trump or making a TV appearance to explain, it was all rather underwhelming. Now, for what it means for Armenia and Azerbaijan, I mean, I saw jubilation and elation from the Azerbaijani side. In fact, some of my more like moderate mutuals, they were messaging me like, hey, how, why so down? Why so black-pilled? A lot of this is good, or a lot of this could end up good. And the thing is, from their end, I can see, if they see this agreement, they're just like, okay, well, like, what's wrong here if we're just going to agree to things? But the fear from the Armenian side, because like, the border wasn't demarcated properly, like that did have to be get taken care of. Agreeing to recognize each other's territory, okay, that's a major Armenian loss. But at this point, they've been pushed out of Artsakh, and the Azerbaijanis have fortified and basically got their foot in very strongly. So that was a long shot now. But the thing is that what's the main fear for Armenians is that if Azerbaijan decides to renege on any part of this, who is going to come step in on their behalf? Is it going to be America? Well, we don't really trust that they would, in the same way that Russia or Iran, who are literally bordering it, or bordering the Caucasus, would, because it's just a short hop over. Now, Russia also had a army base in Gyumri, in the second largest city in Armenia. That was always been one of the main footholds for why Russia is allied with Armenia. I keep bringing up this question, and I'm still haven't quite found a good answer on what this means for the contract of that army base, or what's going to happen. They signed a 50-year contract, and I think that was like in the mid-90s. So we're about just over halfway through that, and still got a ways to go. I don't know what that will look like, what Russia will decide to do. I see Russian commentary on Russian TV. They still have given this not too much attention. There's nothing close to like what the Alaska meeting got, but which
is weird because this has more geopolitical implications for the entire world than
and Russia's sphere of influence. Yeah. But I mean, they've made some allusions to Armenia's energy dependence on Russia, which is absolutely true. Once again, if Russia decides to turn that off, what is the West going to do on Armenia's behalf, to help alleviate that? So a lot of question marks, a lot of fear. Pashinyan, is taking criticism, at least from the diaspora voices that I see, for kind of just trading, prioritizing personal gain and some U.S. security, at least in a personal sense, over national interests. And so there's going to be an election next year, and his approval rating has steadily decreased since it was very high in 2018, 2019. It's gone down. It's now kind of stabilized, through all this. He does have a following, I suppose, in Armenia. But at the same time, when you read polls in Armenia over which institutions, which individuals you trust, there's very little trust for anyone. I mean, there's some trust in the church. There's even less trust in the politicians. But there's just a very little trust going around in anything. So what's resulted is kind of a malaise and a demoralization. And that's actually one of the worst places to be, because there was, I feel like there was probably much higher motivation and morale, both in the start of the 90s when the Republic got independence and we won the war. Even with this color revolution with Pashinyan, there was a higher morale because the second war hadn't happened. And so after everything that's gone on since 2020, I just feel like people are completely just beaten to a pulp and tuned down.
I mean, really, what could we hope for from the Armenians? They're a small population. They're really not militarized, and they have a bigger diaspora than they have a native population inside of the borders of Armenia.
They have their diaspora is larger than the Republic's population. That's always a problem because you have a lot of voices.
Fifth column liberals.
That not all of them are liberal now, and especially since the war, a lot of them have become hawks, and that's also kind of a problem though when you have your hawks living outside of it who aren't going to fight it. So it does pull the conversation in ways that sort of like aggravate the population back home.
Sure, yeah, I get it.
So they are militarized though. I mean, even Artsakh, which was a non-recognized entity, they punched above their weight for what the population was. Actually, I think that the military of both Armenia and Azerbaijan can punch above their weight and are actually better militaries than some of the republics in Europe. I'm not even kidding.
They're Caucasian people. Of course they're going to punch above their weight militarily. Same thing with like Chechens and Dagestanis. Like people be like, the Chechen wars were so fierce. And it's because of the Chechens, not because the it was,
right, in the Kadyrov units, yeah, and
exactly.
Well,
what do you think about like so we have this is where I'm kind of hitting a little bit of a snag is that we have this discussion between obviously the United States, Azerbaijan, and Armenia, with the United States being a huge backer of Israel. That's their alt account, as we like to call it. And now we see this axis kind of being born, whether people, I don't know if you acknowledge it as much as I do, but the Azerbaijani, Israeli, Ukrainian axis, which leaves the Armenia and Russia out in the cold effectively. How does that and then we know Pashinyan's on his way out. Like where does this leave Armenia?
We don't know that yet.
Well, hopefully.
Yeah, we could hope. The 2021 was a great moment for it to be done. The opposition ran, one of the previous presidents, and that was a mistake. But anyway, I agree with you on this building axis. Azerbaijan, it seems like it's a lock now for the Abraham Accords coming up. The other axis, and I think this is the axis that Pashinyan is okay with, but aligning with Turkey or just normalization of relations with Turkey, and this is kind of separate now from Israel because they're not necessarily under one axis, but Turkey is NATO, so they are still in the crew, and so but Azerbaijan, Turkey, and if Armenia is preferring to normalize with them and thus sever relations with Russia, with Iran, that is a very scary position to be in for Armenians. But that's kind of what the leadership is working on, essentially.
Do they understand that position? Do they understand this axis that's sort of forming? I mean, Russia clearly understands it as they continuously bomb Azerbaijani refineries in Ukraine. I don't worry about Armenians. I worry about Armenia. The state.
Yeah, I mean, the other fear is that this a great big fear, and this is at least one thing that like the corridor would address, nominally, is that if the sovereignty is covered, for just the corridor, then it would protect that province. Now, no one feels protected. They still feel very greatly about Sunik province, the southern province of Armenia, and that could be taken over, and that Armenia would be left as a rump state with just the areas surrounding Yerevan. Now, one of the points on here is that Azerbaijan has to get rid of all of their Western Azerbaijan kanging. That we've been just seeing that in the social media for about 2 years now. Western Azerbaijan, Zangezur, blah blah. These are our lost lands. Blah. So it's like this was like sort of a tit for tat of kind of meant to mirror Armenian irredentism. But the thing is that, as I said earlier, they could just get right back to it at any time, because who are we supposed to feel like is going to tell Azerbaijan not to do that? For a while, Russia was doing that, but they're going to be out, especially if Azerbaijan's on the Abraham Accords. You just mentioned, Russia bombed some oil depots from Azerbaijan and Ukraine. So, the growing axis, on Team Ukraine, and the South Caucasus aligning with them, it further grows. And I've always said that like Turkey has an interest in Ukraine because Turkey has eyes on the Crimean Peninsula. Yep. That's my guess. I can't.
No, you're 100% right. It's that Black Sea, Crimea, that sort of. Well, they use the Tatar thing. We have Turks in there. We can use that as our continuous Turkic whatever. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Land back for the Tatars. I think Turkey really has its eyes set on that. So despite what they say or the way that they act like as mediators, I think Turkey has eyes on the Crimean Peninsula. And so they don't want Russia to make these gains in the war. I mean, they'll mediate on behalf of Donbass, but like they don't want Russia to pull off what has been pulling off. And so So anyway, all these powers or all these nations that we've just mentioned, they have interests against Russia. And anyway, Armenia is just sort of an odd member of that group now. It's just bizarre to see them being mentioned along with them.
And just so you know, a little catch up for that. So Russian drones have struck Usutova area. That's in Odessa. That's targeted a rail station and a fuel terminal, which is operated by Azerbaijan's state oil company and is called SOKAR. These follow strikes that were committed by Russia on August 6th in Orlovka. They operate energy infrastructure across Ukraine in their terminals and logistics hubs. Azerbaijani President Aliyev has condemned the attacks and warned that Azerbaijan may consider its ban on supplying weapons to Ukraine if Russian strikes on Azerbaijani-linked energy sites continue. Do it. Remove the ban.
Well, the interesting thing for me is how far now, like, kind of similar to Armenia almost, where if Azerbaijan is in the Abraham Accords, how are they actually being protected if, say, Russia does want to do something? I mean, who's going to come? Is it going to be the collective NATO? I don't think so. So that's interesting for me too. I think both of these countries are signing on to agreements that are severing their ties with Russia, which is a whole new territory for
In
them.
my Italian family, we say your mouth is writing checks that your ass can't cash. So I think that I agree, Aliyev. I think you should lift the ban on supplying arms to Ukraine. Say it with your chest, let it out, and give them the weapons, and let's get this party started.
We haven't even mentioned Iran yet and all that. Like Iran's response to this, I mean, I think they're going to be wooed with this, potential benefits and blah blah. Earlier today, I heard about now a new north to south corridor that's in the works or whatever. But this kind of reminds me of like the JCPOA, where it's just like you get rid of it and then you just start talking about the need for it back again. It's like we just had the north south corridor. This is going to get cut it off, and now you're talking about making a new one, which you just cut off. Which great, but this essentially leaves Armenia as like the exit on ramp and off ramp area where you just build these like overpasses of corridors that are going above and below each other.
That's almost it. It's like making it as small as possible, and then it's like, well, you guys really don't matter. You're eventually just going to be like an oblast in this big Turkic expansion.
Yeah,
it's kind of scary. But my Russian side also says words are wind, but the ground never lies, or the soil never lies. So we'll see what happens on the ground. They thought I was from Iraq. No, I was just visiting Iraq. No, I wish I was from Iraq, but it's too hot. Any last thoughts on where we go from here, Murat, as we watch Russia continue to strike the Odessa port?
Yeah, I think following the meeting, Russia is just going to go right back to what they were doing. I think the meeting itself was the win. They didn't really need to accomplish anything in the meeting. Just being invited, getting to show up was the win. They'll try to now, invite Trump or whatever, but the Americans will never go for that one. But another thing to watch out for, probably we'll start talking about it next week because I'll research this. But what's going on with India and our cooling of relations with India? I
actually find this incredibly interesting. I like to read into a lot of what especially these Eastern countries say, especially when it comes to the quieter ones, i.e. Russia, China, India. Obviously, India came out and said, go F yourself. We'll get oil wherever we want and we'll continue to make money. And China came out and said, we back India. Their energy sovereignty is important to us too.
Yeah.
So I thought that was kind of interesting that they came out and vocally made a statement, their foreign ministry, in support of India and its sort of thing with USA. And now that ties back into the tariffs, not to start another conversation, but I believe that this tariff regime is really falling apart. It's not kind of panning out the way it was supposed to.
Tariffs are a giant fail. And India, formerly a colonial possession and then not aligned for a while, as it steps into its own, they'll have to be respected. I mean, we make a lot of jokes on social media, and there's a lot of bad PR, not necessarily for the country, but we'll just say like for the diaspora, or whatever. They'll need to be respected because they are a large. I think they're already the largest population now. They've surpassed China, and they are they're going to become the weight that shifts the fulcrum. And so this will kind of be in line with the world transitioning into like an Indo-Pacific geopolitical chessboard. And so yeah, you see Thailand and Cambodia firing up, and India cooling the relations with Trump. So I think that they'll need to be respected more and more. And yeah, that'll be something we go into, because there's a lot of stories this week of what's going on with Modi and Trump.
And then we'll do an India episode. Usually we come out of those with, we're banned in India, so it doesn't matter. We can say whatever we want. We're banned in India. We're blocked in India, guys. Don't worry. There will be no Indians here when we're doing the stream. They can't even see us anymore. We tried.
Okay, sorry.
Sorry. The Israeli woman. Israeli woman. Then they're going over to Israel as well. Anyway, so I hope you guys have a really good rest of your Sunday. You'll see us crashing out and fighting in spaces today, I'm sure. And just find us. And hopefully we'll have Chris on again this week. And people said they want more Timmy. I will let her know, and she will be excited to hear it. Thank you all for joining us, and we will see you on Sunday.